Gentlelady yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Mills.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So I wanted to go through my understanding of the Belt and Road Initiative. It's something that I had written on for many years, and I've published dozens of articles on the ideas of also the geopolitical alignments that are involved in this when we talk about Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, and what their overarching goal is, which we know is to eliminate the U.S. dollar as a global currency. But we're seeing where you've already got an expansion of Eurasia, which is one of the key elements that they were looking for, that they're continuing to try and utilize the proxy of Russia to be able to try and advance for them. You already have a tremendous amount of growth when it comes to Africa and the economic coercion that was undermining a lot of the U.S. security cooperations and others. And then you see the continual strengthening in Oceania, which is really an idea of trying to choke off Western Hemisphere supply chain. And then that marriage of convenience that they currently have, we know helps them a lot in our own hemisphere. When we talk about the Chavez of Venezuela, when we talk about Petro in Colombia, when we talk about that Russian involvement, as I mentioned. But they also have now Panama and Honduras, whereby they're going to continue to utilize these relationships to potentially look at the promotion of increased taxes, tariffs, and passageway when it comes to the canal. So there's almost an encirclement attempt with conjunction of further type of malign activity regarding WHO and WEF and how they utilize those, but also attacking the petrodollar with OPEC to try and see if they can supplement it and or replace it. And so when you know that these are a lot of the strategies, and we have been in an economic resource and cyber-based warfare with China for quite a long time. We continue to try and refer to it as competition, which is why it kind of disturbs me slightly when I hear something like what you stated earlier about Sullivan saying that we should de-risk and not decouple, because I do think that we do have opportunities to be able to not only protect America and get back control of our economic and supply chain capabilities, but also to really thrust China into an economic collision, because if you look, they're in far worse position than we are when it comes to debt. They just aren't allowing their valuations to be properly audited that would actually disclose a lot of these things. And so, I'm concerned with a lot of the things that we're doing that doesn't seem to be in line with us actually trying to save America, and more on a China first agenda when it comes to this administration, when we talk about the significant importance of energy dominance. And meanwhile, one of the first things that was done was to cut the Keystone XL pipeline. When we talk about the ideas of economic warfare, and yet we haven't recognized yet that it's not the dollar or the baht or the dinar or the ruble. The common global currency is energy. And I'm just not seeing where this administration is really grasping that understanding. Now, I would argue that we have a lot of things, and Chairman Xi has said it himself, that he can outpace us militarily and economically, but his biggest fear is America's innovation. And I think that we have opportunities, as we all know, to advance ourselves and almost treat the quantum race the same way that Reagan treated the space race when it came to helping to bankrupt. Again, looking at the ideas of quantum entanglement, AI autonomous drone capabilities, but also the ideas that we know they control 15 of the 16 rare earth mineral mines, but we don't even explore the ideas of subsurface harvesting, where you actually have the ability to take the 100% manganese control out of Chinese hands by actually utilizing that at the 10,000 to 12,000 meter depth levels, something we have a capability of doing, but also would refocus China's attention, because if we decouple, the way to hurt China, because they want to get into a non-kinetic element of things, they don't want to go gun to gun with us. They want us to basically go ahead and collapse ourselves financially, which means that they essentially have won by not only buying up our lands and controlling the farmlands, but controlling us and our behaviors. So I wanted to know whether or not we feel that energy dominance, getting to a point of reliable, not just a race for renewables where we buy a lot of the materials from China, and the ideas of subsurface harvesting, quantum race, and these types of elements where we understand that decoupling and hurting China economically is far, far more superior than anything else, is something that you would agree with.
So, Congressman, I said, I think in the opening sentence of my statement that I see my job and ENR's role as to ensure that the United States continues to be the partner of choice around the world on issues of energy and energy security. We had that status during the fossil fuel era, and we are now working as hard as we can to ensure that that remains the case as we enter this area of technological change. We see more work being done in areas ranging from small modular reactors to green hydrogen to geothermal to wind and solar and all the other technologies that will.
Those are more renewables over reliables. I mean, when we look at the actual impacts of things, but also where the actual sources are originating. I mean, again, we know cobalt, nickel, and lithium, especially after we gave $1.1 trillion in lithium to the Chinese with the handover of Afghanistan, doesn't work in our favor. But we do have LNG, we do have natural gas, we do have the ideas of drilling more and actually getting resource harvesting. And this cash diplomacy effort that the USAID and OTI, where we think we can buy our adversaries with $800 million or whatever the case may be for Pakistan or the others, has shown not to work. But what has worked is the model that Germany and Russia had, whereby you actually provided reliable, cost-effective energy sources, and that gained a lot of alliance, especially for those countries that were moving away from their own productivities of coal and nuclear, et cetera. So I don't think that the strategy that we're utilizing, if the idea is to understand that we're looking to try and be the prevent China's expansion and actually get to a point of being the global dominant, I don't think the idea is trying to de-risk our involvement, but decouple away from the economic reliancy on China. And so I don't think that preventing clean energy dominance is necessarily the only mechanism. It's actually utilizing and supplying our own internal energy when it comes to oil and fossil fuels and the things that we need to be able to be dominant to the point where that's our recognized strengths. And so I'm sorry when I disagree with the solar power projects that majority of this isn't made in America. And we're not in competition with China. We're in economic resource warfare with China. And we need to acknowledge that and stop trying to hide away from it. Thank you for the additional time, Mr. Chairman. With that, I